Namaskar. Hello, friends. Today, first I will go through a summary review of key insights into chapter 2 as a whole. It is said that chapter 2 is the most important chapter of the Gita. It presents almost the complete philosophy of Gita, all the fundamentals. So here I go. First, we humans are too much of conditioned beings. Our knowledge is limited by the constraints of our sense organs. Yet, we form an ego based on that knowledge, though we know nothing that is beyond our sense organs. It is necessary to broaden our perspective to cover the metaphysical concepts so that we can take the physical world and our life in it with a bucket full of salt. Second, our identity as the visible form, that is body, is illusory and transitory. As a body, we are not here first, then we come into existence in this world, live for some time, and then vanish. Excuse me. That form is just a temporary manifestation of the underlying fundamental concept, namely soul, or Brahman, or the singular, or the supreme God, whatever you may like to call it. That fundamental concept is indestructible, eternal. It just keeps changing its form. As soul, we all have always been there and will always be there, though not as bodies. Third, sense organs are programmed to distinguish between pleasant and painful experiences. We have to accept them with equanimity. In any case, all sense experiences are temporary. Fourth, Swadharma is an individual way of life, appropriate to every individual, while being God conscious, that is, aware of the big picture of creation beyond our narrow physical identity. Following Swadharma is liberating, even though it may be difficult and painful. We should not think of future consequences of following Swadharma and just follow it because that is what fits in at the time. We should not compare ourselves to others and then want to follow a different way of life, abandoning our Swadharma. That will cause fear, grief, and even our destruction. Fifth, sin is a concept that is relative to our sense of doership. If we think we are doers of our karma, then we are bound by the consequences of that karma, which gives rise to the concepts of papa, that is sin, or debit for bad karma, and punya, that is credit for good karma. So we should try to give up doership, and then we will be free of sin. Intellect that is completely steeped in worldliness and pursues pleasures sees many different ways and hence remains confused. As a result, mind remains agitated, scared, anxious, excited. On the contrary, intellect that is God conscious sees only one way and hence mind is blissful. Seventh, we are made up of three gunas, satwa, rajas, and tamas, in different individual combinations in different persons. We are driven by their interplay and cannot control it. So we should go beyond them while simply witnessing their play. In other words, Accept whatever comes your way without being judgmental. Eighth, we have a right only to perform karma and not to get a particular desired fruit of it. So, karma should be performed for its own sake without getting attached to the fruit of karma. At the same time, we should not avoid due karma. Ninth, right karma is that which is done in God consciousness. 10th, all the knowledge from Vedas and such scriptures stops being relevant when one transcends the limited bodily identity and merges with the singular. 11th, sthitaprajnata, that is steady mind and intellect, is the most critical state for attaining liberation. Liberation is liberation from desires, fears, attachments, and it is attainable in this life, in this very world, while still alive. Sthitaprajnata means a state of mind that is not disturbed by pains or pleasures, success or failure, etc. One who attains this state ceases to see any duality whatsoever. To attain such a state, control over sense organs is most essential. Pursuance of sense desires causes one to get destroyed via anger, stupidity, loss of memory, and loss of intellect. In this regard, not getting attached to sense experiences is important. Then, even if one gets sense experiences from time to time due to his worldly situations, his mind remains stable. 12th and last one. Ordinary people have no knowledge or awareness of this spiritual philosophy and are totally seeped in worldliness. On the contrary, a self-realized person is unconcerned with worldliness and is firmly established in God consciousness. So that is the end of chapter 2. Now we will go over to chapter 3. Verses 3 and 4 from chapter 3. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam Na Karmana Mana Arambhan Naishkarmyam Purushošnute Na Cha Sanyasana Deva Siddhim Samadhigacchati. Literal meaning. Lord Krishna said, O sinless Arjuna, in this creation, right at the beginning itself, I have told these two paths, Jnana Yoga for those who think along Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga for those who perform actions. One cannot become actionless by not performing actions, and it is not as if one can become a Siddha, that is self-realized yogi, by abstaining from actions. Practical insight. The Gita shows more than one path to liberation. They all lead to the same goal, but a seeker has to choose that path which suits him best. Those who are intellectually better endowed and in addition are disinterested in the worldly life can follow the path of contemplation on the singular principle, namely Brahman. The others, who may be a much larger number, who cannot detach from the worldly life easily, can follow Karma Yoga path. One cannot force oneself to give up karma, and he cannot get liberated by running away from karma. Now verses 5 and 8 of chapter 3. Nahi kaschit kshanamappi jatu tishthatya karma krut karyate yavashah karma sarvah prakritijair gunaihi niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyayo yah karmanaha शरीरयात्रापि च तेन प्रसिद्ध्येद कर्मणः. Literal meaning: nobody can sit even for a moment without doing any action. The three gunas, namely satwa, rajas, and tamas, created by Maya, make everyone perform actions. Look, you should perform your righteous duties. It is more beneficial to perform karma rather than abstaining from karma. If you do not perform karma, even your body will not sustain. Practical insight: as physical bodies living in this physical world, we cannot live without action. Even breathing is action, thinking is action, seeing is action, hearing is action. So it is futile to think of discarding action, that is karma. Besides, we do not quite know what exactly it is that actually makes us take a particular action at a given moment. We have no control over our thinking process that leads to a decision to act in a particular way. Our nature and past conditioning are responsible for it. Nature may be understood as what is referred to as the three gunas here. Each one of us is born with a particular combination of these three gunas that dictate how we act in this world in any given situation. We can even understand the gunas as the genes that make up our body cells. In other words, we are driven to act by by an underlying makeup, a kind of a software. So there is no point in our trying to avoid action. Now verses 6, 7, 17 and 18. कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते. यस्त्विन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभते अर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगमसक्तः स विशिष्यते. यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यादात्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टस्तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते. नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो नाकृते नेह कश्चन न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः. Literal meaning: that silly person who controls his sense organs but keeps on thinking about external sense contacts is considered to be a pretentious person. Lord Krishna said, "But Arjuna, one who controls his sense organs with his mind and sets out on the path of karma yoga without attachment is superior. But one who is engrossed in his soul and is satiated by the inner bliss, such a person has no duties left to perform. In this world, such a person has nothing to gain by performing karma. He has nothing to lose either by not doing karma, and he has nothing to get from any other being." Practical insight: an important aspect brought up here is of sense control. We should not try to suppress sense desires because that serves no purpose. By simply suppressing a desire, we cannot avoid thinking about it if the desire is strong enough. Then it would be pretentious to outwardly appear to be not indulging in desires, but inwardly craving. Better way is to gradually let the desires drop by themselves, and for that we should contemplate. We should ask ourselves about the need to fulfill a desire when it arises, and ask ourselves what exactly we will get by fulfilling that desire, and whether it is really worth it. It is such conscious effort to analyze our attitude towards desires that will gradually and over a period of time make the desires drop on their own. Even when sense pleasure is coming one's way without seeking it, One should keep his mind under control and not get attached to that sense pleasure. As desires reduce, karma also automatically reduces. But he has nothing to gain by either engaging in actions or not engaging in actions. So his actions may continue, but they do not amount to binding karma because the motivation behind his actions is truly divine. I will stop here today and continue the next time. Until then, bye. Take care.